Thank you, Madam Speaker. Well, as the country deals with distractions that are the truth of which is very difficult to get out of the White House or other sources, such as the missing Titanic submarine. When did it actually implode? Couldn't get the truth on that. Or where's the packet of cocaine that came into the White House? Who's responsible for that? Why can't they track that with their massive security systems? Or silliness such as males competing in women's sports and being in women's places like their locker rooms. All these things distract away from their important issues in of themselves, but they distract from some really important issues that don't get a lot of press, a lot of coverage these days. Take the situation with Iran and its development of nuclear weapons. Now, that's a very unstable country and one that's a very well-noted sponsor of terror around the world in many areas. So let's harken back a little ways here. Under the Obama administration, everybody remembers that first pallet of cash that was flown into Iran of about $400 million, basically of other currencies, because there were still sanctions at the time that we couldn't send U.S. dollars in there, so it was mainly Swiss francs and euros that were sent in, of a total of about $1.7 billion that was sent in to help sponsor terror that Iran is so good at. So how are we supposed to ask our partners around the world to continue sanctions against Iran, whatever is still left in place, after the JCPOA was put in 2015, to help stop the major sponsor of terror in the world? How are we supposed to continue that? Indeed, the Biden administration has a plan, an idea of sending $17 billion more over there to help prop up their treasury. What in the world are we doing that for? With all the things we need to spend money on in our own country here, and we want to help prop up the treasury of the major state sponsor of terror that Iran is. The JCPOA, agreed to under the Obama administration, has been a complete failure, trying to limit the amount of uranium that they would be refining through their centrifuges. Our understanding is that they have 23 times the stockpiles of these uranium material provided for in the 2015 JCPOA. really adhering to that agreement, enforcing that agreement, it sounds like. And yet we're talking about, at this administration, sending $17 billion more to help prop up their economy and help them do more terror activity. 23 times the stockpiles. So at the point that Iran reaches 90% enrichment on its uranium, Israel's going to have some very important decisions to make, because Israel's already surrounded by a lot of people that don't like them in the Middle East, including Iran. If they get the weapons they need and the ability to deliver them, Israel's going to have some very, very tough decisions to make on preserving themselves and not getting much of a good signal coming from the current administration in the White House that the United States is going to be there to back up Israel like they need to be. What will that force them to do? Who knows? Probably some very extreme things. I don't blame them, but when the International Atomic Energy Agency can verify that they've reached already 83.7% of enrichment levels of a certain amount of stockpile that Iran has, they're not far from having nuclear weapon capable materials. When they reach that 90% point, that's generally accepted as nuclear bomb ready. Now, is Iran a stable enough country we can trust them with nuclear bombs? That was what supposedly the whole JCPOA was about, to keep them from getting nuclear weapons. This isn't the Iran of old, where the United States used to at least have a relationship with them, and they had a lot more of a westernized culture with free movement, free activities for women, for many Iranians, pre-1979 and the Ayatollah taking over there. It's still a very unstable country and causes much instability in the world. So the idea of them gaining nuclear weapons very soon, when they reach that 90% mark, puts us all in a pretty perilous position. We're across an entire ocean from the situation there across the Atlantic and such. But our neighbor, our great ally Israel, as well as part of Europe. What are they going to be facing with a nuclear Iran? We better get serious on not just not sending them $17 billion or more, but putting the sanctions back in place that will bring Iran to its knees and stop this nuclear proliferation and their ability to sponsor terror. I yield back.